Good evening, viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Social Development Outlook for Tuesday, the 14th of July, 2020. I am your host, Sheldon Joseph. And just to remind you that this program is hosted and produced by the Communication Unit within the Ministry of Social Development. And every single week, we strive really hard to highlight the movers and shakers within this ministry and its related departments. We'll take this break, and I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Kirisha David of the Taxpayer Services Unit at the Inland Revenue Department, Nevis, with a message to tell you paying your taxes on time helps you to avoid interest and penalties. So be a responsible citizen.
And I'm back. And to start off tonight's program, we go to the home of Miss Tobias for her 80th birthday. We'll take in this as the minister makes his presentation.
Good morning, everyone, and today we are here by Miss Tobias, Miss Myrtle Tobias, who would have celebrated 80 years on March 5th, 2020. And we're here from the Ministry of Social Development. We have our Minister, Honorable Eric Evelyn, Miss Joyce Moving, and some friends and well-wishers, Mr. Mike Brown, and today we are here to celebrate with her. And we're now going to turn over to Mr. Mike Brown.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you. So good to be alive. So good to be in the land of the living in times like these. We want to thank God for the life of Sister Tobias, celebrating 80. That's a long time around. 80 years is not 80 days. I've been living a long time myself and I'm far from 80. We just want to thank God for you. We are happy to have the minister with us and social workers, Sister Moving, and my good friend Miss Prentice, Sister Essie, my friend, and Sandra Joseph. We bring joy to our heart, all of us heart this morning. We just want to leave a word or two with you, Sister Tobias. Whatever you do it to the honor and glory of God. You're 80, but in my mind you look half that.
Thank you, Mr. Mike Brown. And now we're going to turn over to our Minister, Honorable Eric Evelyn, to do the presentation to Mr. Tobias.
Thank you very much, Miss Prentice, and let me say good morning to everyone. And a special good morning to the Queen here in purple, Miss Tobias. And just before I say anything about Mr. Tobias, I just wanted to say thank you very much to Mr. Brown, and thank you for the wonderful words. And let me just assure you that myself and all of my colleagues, we are God-fearing people. And I just want to say that the government chosen by the people is the government chosen by God. And we are truly blessed, and we will continue to do the work of the people and, of course, guided by the hand of the Lord. I am truly, truly heartened and pleased to be here this morning to celebrate with my very good friend, Miss Myrtle Tobias. Miss Tobias and I go way, way, way back. We have been friends for a very, very, very long time, ever since she was living in Charlestown, and then she moved here. I visited her here so many times. And when I spoke to Mr. Tobias earlier this year and she told me I celebrated my 80th birthday, I said, well, we have to come by you because we have a program in my ministry where once you reach certain milestone, we'll come and visit. So I said, whether you like it or not, we will have to come. And I told, I can't remember if it was Joyce or yes, I mentioned it to the deputy director and I said, I have a good friend, Mr. Tobias, who made 80, and we have to go and make a presentation. And then, of course, her cousin and friend, Ulrika. Every time me and Ulrika speak, she always remind me, man, you have to go and look for Mr. Tobias. If you don't go, call her. And so that was one of those calls that I made to Mr. Tobias when she told me she was making 80. And as I said, Mr. Tobias and me go way back, and there are a lot of things I really admire about her. One of the things about Mr. Tobias is that she's a very exceptionally pleasant person, always giving me an encouragement. And, even when she speaks to me on the phone, even though I cannot see her, I can feel the smile. Always sweet, smiling lady. And as I said, always giving me an encouraging word. And of course, you heard about the garden. I mean, when I spoke to Mr. Bias a couple of weeks ago, she said, I asked about the garden because that is one of the things we have connected with over the years. Both of us love plants. And, I asked about it. He said, the garden look good now, And when I came here this morning, I was pleasantly surprised to see the condition that she has gotten her garden in. And it's because of that hard work and commitment. Because Mr. Bias was away for a couple of years, and she said when she came back, the garden was not in good condition. But I'm surprised to see the transformation that has taken place in her garden. She is a loving person. She loves flowers, and that is why I believe she blooms so much. And she has been blooming for 80 long years. And I believe God will continue to be merciful to her, to get her to continue to bloom for many, many more years. And apart from that, Mr. Bias is also a very, very generous person. Whenever you comes around, she always have something, a slip or something to offer you from the garden. Or he say, go and have some, So that generosity, that wonderful smile, that person who is always in a garden, I believe that is what has kept her looking so well at the age of 80. And we want to give thanks for Mr. Bias for her 80 long years. She would have been good to Nevis, and I believe Nevis has been good to her as well. And we want to continue to ask God for his blessings and mercy on her. Mr. Bias, on behalf of all of us at Social Services, we want to say how happy we are to be here to celebrate with you belatedly, but we are here, and to wish you a belated happy 80th birthday. You look nothing close to 80. The hard work in the garden is keeping you looking well. So I would encourage you to continue to have the garden looking splendid. So we want to wish you a very happy belated birthday. May God continue to bless you, and may you be around for many, many, many more years. Good health, strength, and God's continued blessings on you. I just want to tell you that we from Social Services, we love you. And you know how much I love you as well, right? So may God continue to bless you, and belated happy birthday. Blessings always. And we would like to make this presentation of a plaque. And this is done on behalf of the ministry in collaboration with the CDS, the City Drug Store. It says, Social Services Department, Certificate of Recognition awarded to Myrtle Tobias in recognition of your 80th birthday, signed by Keith Glasgow, the Permanent Secretary, and Sandra Mena, the Director of the Social Services Department. And Mr. Bias, I know we took a break from this because of the COVID, but we are happy to be back because, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I miss these celebrations because I think everybody knows how much I love to be around our seniors, right? Even though you don't look like a senior, all right? And then we'll make a presentation of the basket as well. Look at the camera.
Keep that smile, yes.
Right?
Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up.
Keep it right there and just right. Mm-hmm. I will hold this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll take this break, and I'll be right back with our feature presentation for this evening.
Eliminate breeding today, keep mosquitoes away. Here are some ways to eliminate mosquito breeding sources around your home. Tightly cover water drums, barrels, tanks, cisterns, and septic tanks. Safely dispose of buckets, old tires, and any other unused containers and objects that hold water. Scrub the inside of PET containers, flower vases, and dish drainers every other day. Remove water from flower pot saucers and replace with damp sand. Overturn buckets, watering cans, wheelbarrows, and other containers and store them in a sheltered place. Adequately treat swimming pools and discard water from portable pools. Check roof gutters for chokes regularly. Fill up exposed tree holes, plant axils, and ground depressions with sand. If you are going for a holiday, empty toilet bowls and tanks and cover gully traps. Reduce the source. Eliminate breeding today, keep mosquitoes away. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Health Promotion Unit in collaboration with Nevis Television 8.
Well, I'm back. And for our feature presentation this evening, we look at some grade 4 students from the Charleston Primary School as they interview key figures within the COVID response on Nevis. Let's take in this.
A pleasant morning, Honorable Troy Liburd.
Pleasant good morning to you also. How are you?
I am Zonia Batson, a grade 4 student of the Charlestown Primary School. Firstly, thank you for making the time to meet with me. There are a few questions I would like to ask. Can you explain your roles and your responsibilities in government?
Good morning and thank you for your question, and it's very nice to meet you also, Ms. Batson. Currently, I am the Junior Minister with responsibility for education, for library services, and for information technology. So all of those three departments are in one ministry, Ministry of Education, Library Services, and Information Technology. And my role is to administer these ministries daily. So I look over the day-to-day workings of education, which is the biggest part of the ministry, and that involves all of our schools, from our daycares up to our tertiary institutions. So your school, the high schools, and all of the daycares, they come under the ministry. We are also responsible for the libraries around the island, and we are responsible for information technology. That's bringing the internet and the computers and so on to all of our schools and to all of the government offices.
Thank you for that response.
Okay.
My school is the largest primary school on the island, and therefore, total elimination of socialization will be a challenge. Will the schools operate on a shift system, and how will this be managed?
We have not yet had a final decision on what the exact format of school will be come September. Our goal, as stated, is to have school opened in September. For a school such as Charlestown Primary, where you have a very large role, it would be difficult to implement all of the social distancing protocols. So what we have been doing in the meantime is to get the population of the schools, and we have sent out some of our workers to take measurements of the classrooms. That way we can have a realistic feel for the distances that we can get within the classrooms. We are also looking at other means of sanitizing our students and workers who will be in the school environment. So there are different options that we are looking at in terms of getting us to the point that we need to be to have physical school back opened come September.
Interesting. I have a final question for you. As a concerned student, if more cases of COVID-19 are discovered by September, do you think it is wise to reopen the schools and have students as myself in that physical setting?
You saved the tough question for last. You've been asking the tough questions. Okay. I would understand the concerns that everyone would have. The students, the teachers, the parents. I myself am a parent, so I would have those concerns also. We would have to weigh all of the different variables. We have to weigh the need to educate our children. We have to weigh the importance of safety. We have to look at the spread. If more COVID-19 were to come into the Federation, we would have to weigh. One, is it something that is coming in? If the borders are to be opened and the persons are isolated, so there's no community spread, we would have to look at that. If, God forbid, we were to start getting some community spread, then we would have to start looking at things in a different way. If it happens and we are able to isolate the pocket, then we can say continue with school. But if it starts to spread rapidly, then we would definitely have to put the health and safety of our citizens first and foremost, the health and safety of our young people foremost. We have started to implement the online learning. While it is not the best, because we prefer the face-to-face interaction, there's nothing better than face-to-face with the teachers and the students in the classroom. There is nothing better than the interaction that you have with students being friends and so on. We don't want to lose that. But if it is necessary for us to take some steps to slow or to eliminate the COVID, then we would have to do what is necessary. So the short answer to that long answer is that we would have to monitor the situation and make the decisions that are best at the time.
Honorable Troy Liber, it was a very interesting interview. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to answer your tough questions this morning.
Good morning, Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams. My name is Jasira Arthurton, and I am a student at the Charleston Primary School, currently in grade 4. Thank you for taking the time to engage me. I would like to hear your input on a few important subjects.
Thank you very much for coming. It is indeed a pleasure for me to have you and to speak with you this morning.
Firstly, what are your roles and responsibilities in government?
Presently, I am the minister responsible for health and gender affairs. I must also add that you will hear from time to time persons refer to me as the junior minister, because I work under the office of the Premier. He is the senior minister and I am the junior minister responsible for health and gender affairs.
Interesting response. With school scheduled to be reopened in September, has there been any consideration for those students who have to take the school bus and public transportation? And how will they be affected by the adhering to regulations?
Okay, as we make plans to open schools in September, it is indeed a collaborative effort between education and the Ministry of Health. From the Ministry of Health, we will try to enforce the protocols that are in place. And such protocols are, if you are traveling on a public transportation, you are required to wear masks. You are also required to be one seat away from the other. So for the school bus, in example, you will have students sitting in every other row on the school bus. We also will enforce that the bus driver sanitize the bus every day, twice a day, first thing in the morning and at least last time in the evening. We'll also encourage the bus driver to have hand sanitizers so that when students enter the bus, he or she can spray some hand sanitizer so that they are indeed sanitized before they come on the bus.
Thank you for that response. Sanitation of self and surfaces have been effective in dealing with COVID-19. As a Minister of Health, how can you ensure the safety of all students in an environment against this virus once school has reopened?
You know that in school, and you are a student of the Charleston Primary School, and you have very large numbers. So it is going to be extremely difficult, especially to exercise the physical distancing, because I know you have a lot of friends, you want to hold your friends, you want to hug your friends, and so when you return to school, it will be a little different. We will be asking you to be more careful as it pertains to hugging your friend and being all mushy with your friend. We will ask and encourage all students to continue to cover their cough. I'm certain that you know the little ads that we have on television to cover your coughs and your sneeze. We'll encourage persons to do that. We'll also encourage you to wear your masks. It is very important that you use your masks. And then for the adults, we will encourage the principal and the staff to ensure that they sanitize the classrooms as much as possible, and that they make additional spaces available in the classrooms. I know it is going to be very challenging because you have large classes, but they will have to, let's say if you have a class of 24, you might have to cut that 24 into 12 and find additional space for students. This is something that happened for us when I was going to school. We spent a lot of times on the outdoors sitting on stones. Now you sit in chairs. We will encourage teachers as well to take their classes outside so that they can get the fresh air as opposed to be all confined into a room. And then we will also encourage janitors and the school cleaners to sanitize as much as possible. Morning, break time, lunch time, and also to have sinks to wash your hands. Hygiene is very important, and so you have to wash your hands and sanitize your hands constantly. So it would be good if we have some pipes all around the schools or some sanitation points where you can have water and soap or sanitizer, so that every step of the way you continue to exercise proper hygiene and clean your hands every time you go in and out of classes.
This interview was very informative. Thank you. And Honorable Hazel Brandy.
You're welcome, and I'm hoping that the little that I've said to you, that you would take all of it and practice the hygiene, the physical distancing, and encourage your other colleagues, your classmates, even your family at home to try as far as possible to exercise the physical distancing as well as the hygiene and the cover your cough and your sneeze, etc. Thank you very much for coming.
Good morning, Miss Claxton. My name is Elijah Claxton, and I am a grade 4 student of the Charleston Primary School. In light of all that is happening, I would like to ask you a few questions. Firstly, please explain your role and your responsibilities in the Department of Education.
Okay, good morning, Elijah, and thank you for stopping by this morning. It is a pleasure to have you here at the Department of Education, and so a big, warm welcome to you. I am the Principal Education Officer at the Department of Education, and my job is to have oversight of all the schools on the island of Nevis. Oversight is a big word though, and it just means that I have to make sure that teaching and learning is happening, that our students are safe, that all of our staff members, our teachers, everyone is safe, and that they are doing everything in their best interest and in the best interest of the children. So it's basically looking after everyone in education. Does that make it easier to understand?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Second, in light of COVID-19, with schools set to reopen in September, will there be special regulations put in place within the classroom?
Okay, so of course you know that there are so many changes that have happened since COVID-19. Look at us, we're wearing masks, aren't we? And look right here, we have hand sanitizer. And so when schools reopen, we have to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that all children are safe. And so that means that the classrooms might not look exactly like they have looked or they looked before school ended in March. We might have to have persons wearing masks to protect themselves. We might have to make sure that the desks are not as close as they used to be. And we have to make sure that we have ways for you to make sure your hands are clean and that the rooms are sanitized. We might have to have persons cleaning the spaces to make sure that, you have to clean your desk from time to time in case anybody touches them that might have been diagnosed with or might have symptoms of COVID-19 or might not have symptoms and you might be carrying it. So we have to try to do everything that we can to keep you safe when we reopen.
That will be interesting to see.
It will be. It will be.
Ms. Claxton, this is my last question to you. How effective has the online teaching been? And what measures are in place to accommodate special needs students?
So, of course, you realize it took a little while for you to get online. And we had to make sure that your teachers were ready and that the system was ready. We had to make sure that when you got online with your teacher, that she would be able to work with you and work well with you and know how to operate the system. So that took us a little while. And since the students have been online, for some classes it's been perfect and they have not had any challenges, and for some classes they've had some technical issues. And for somebody like you, I know you like to play video games. You know that sometimes you're playing your video games and there are some technical issues. Sometimes something goes wrong with the system, right? And so that, of course, happens as well with any technology system. And so for some classes, the students have had challenges with the technology. Sometimes we have internet challenges, sometimes electricity goes out. But for those students who have had a chance to get onto Microsoft Teams and work with their teachers, I've heard that they had a great time. They were able to learn something. And I also heard that the children are doing better on the system than the teachers. Is that true? Are the children better on the system than the teachers? I figured. And that's because you guys spend a lot of time on technology, and so it's natural to you. And so the online learning has been going well. It only had a short time, but it was our test run. And so next school year, we'll have a chance, all the children will have a chance to continue to work on the system and learn more about it, and the teachers will have the same opportunity as well. So it's a work in progress. The first time you do something, it's not always perfect, but you keep going and you persevere, and the palm is gained with effort, so you have to put your effort in. In terms of special needs students, of course, we have students who have special needs all over the island. You do not have to be enrolled at Cicely Brown Integrated School to have special needs. Sometimes students need a little extra help with reading or a little extra help with math. And so what we've been doing is that we've been training teachers on something called differentiated instruction. And that just means that they have to think about what all the different students in their classes would need to be successful. So that's one thing that we've done for students with special needs. The students who are enrolled at Cicely Brown Integrated, they are actually on Microsoft Teams just like everybody else. And so their teachers work with them on Microsoft Teams, just like your teacher works with you on Microsoft Teams. Their teachers worked really hard to come up with a plan that will help those children, just like you. They had to think about every child and what differences each child has, and then they worked or came up with a plan for that. And I want to right here say a big thank you and congratulations to the teachers at Cicely Brown Integrated, because they really worked hard to come up with something to work with those students who had special needs. For other students, what they have been doing is that every week they go out and they drop off packages at home so that the students would have those to work on if they had challenges online. And they've also been working with the parents. And so the parents now know how to work with their students when the teachers are not there. So we have been doing quite a bit of work to help all students, including our students with special needs.
Thank you, Ms. Claxton.
You're very welcome, Elijah.
Thanks again, Ms. Claxton. It was a pleasure being with you today. Take care and be safe.
Thank you, Elijah, and I want you to be safe as well.
Good morning, Premier Brantley. My name is Ajerne Hodge, and I am currently a grade 4 student at the Charleston Primary School. It is my pleasure to be here to speak with you about the government, education, and of course the current pandemic, COVID-19.
Good morning. Welcome to the Premier's office.
We have heard about the rapid spread of the worldwide pandemic, coronavirus, that has caused many deaths and high rates infections around the world and even in our region. Why do you think we were able to have such small outbreak in our country?
Well, I think we responded quickly. That the government responded very quickly, that we recognized the threat from very early. We closed our borders very early. We put our teams in place. And our health professionals, I think, have been excellent in terms of their response, both in terms of developing protocols for us to follow and in terms of the public education campaign that was embarked upon. So from very early on, all of us, including those in school, were taught about washing hands, social distancing, coughing into our elbows, and all these things became very commonplace because we had a very rigorous public education exercise, which I think helped to sensitize us and the public. And by closing the borders, we prevented people from coming in who might be bringing the virus with them. And so I think that those efforts early on helped us to contain the virus. And until just a few days ago, we had not had any new cases in the past over 2 months. Unfortunately, we have now some new cases from individuals who are coming home. As they try to come home, we understand that some people are stranded. They're now trying to come home. And as a consequence, we have to now expect that we may get cases imported into the Federation again. But at this point, I think our public health system has to respond.
Okay. With much talk about the second wave outbreak of the coronavirus, what plans are in place currently to curb the virus, the rapid spread of the coronavirus?
Well, we hear a lot about the second wave. I'm hoping we don't have a second wave in St. Kitts and Nevis. Already, as I said, we are seeing that we have a few imported cases as our nationals at home and our residents who happen to be abroad are returning home. We have to ensure that we have the proper protocols in place, that we continue to urge our people to be careful, to be vigilant, not to assume that we have won against COVID. All the science and evidence suggests that COVID will be around for some time. So we have to continue to pay attention and to continue to spread the same message, to say to our people to do all the things that we were doing before that kept us safe. We have to continue to do those things in terms of social distancing and washing hands and wearing a mask as we're doing now and all of those. So I think that the second wave, I hope, doesn't come, but the only way we can prevent it is to continue to practice all the best safety precautions that we have been taught by our health professionals. And so we are hopeful that we can manage. We've also, of course, boosted our capacity to respond. So we have better equipment now at our hospitals. We have more ventilators, and these types of investments have been made. So the hope again would be that we're in a better position to respond if that second wave comes, although we are hopeful that we do not have a second wave.
Okay. So let's shift the question a bit. For many of us, our parents and family members work in the tourism industry. Now that our borders are closed, how has our economy and our main industry, tourism, been impacted?
Well, I think it's safe to say that tourism has died. It perhaps sounds harsh, but that is the reality. With the borders closed, naturally, people aren't able to come in. If people are not able to come in, then the tourists that we depend on to fill our hotels have not been coming. So since about March, most of the hotels have been closed. So they have March, April, May, June, this is now July, and many of them are still closed. The consequence of that is that we have had massive job losses for those who work in the hotels. We've had those who work in the allied industries like the taxi drivers, the tour operators, all of those have been adversely affected. And so we now have to deal with the reality that we have to find a way to reopen the economy, reopen the country, and allow once again these very important sectors to function. So the impact on government has been tremendous. Our revenue has fallen off considerably because, of course, on the island of Nevis, we rely for most of our revenue from tourism. So with tourism not happening because the borders are closed and the hotels are closed, it means that the restaurants are impacted, taxi drivers are impacted, tour operators are impacted. All of these people are adversely impacted, and the government, as a result, can't get the revenue that it would get from the various transactions that would happen at the hotels, at the restaurants, etc. So it's a bad situation. The COVID has caused a health crisis, and I think now we're going into the second phase, which is the economic crisis that it has also caused. And so my job as Premier of Nevis and the job of the government is to try to find a way to work ourselves through this particular difficult period.
Finally, Premier Brantley, Many of my classmates and I are currently engaged in virtual learning sessions on a daily basis. Will this become our new normal? What do you think the future of education will look like?
Well, that's a big question in terms of the future of education. I think we're likely to have a mix. I think that some aspects of online training will probably be part of the new normal. I think, however, that traditional training is also important, that we go to a physical structure for education, for taking lessons. And so I think that the future probably looks like an amalgam, a mix of both methodologies, where the online platforms, I think, will be part of it, but I also feel that traditional schools with traditional teachers in the classroom, that they also have a role to play. This COVID has actually taught us that we have been talking about moving online for a while, that the society has to move in that direction. And I think COVID has forced us to accelerate that, to speed that up. So I anticipate that that will continue to be part of the process, although maybe not the only process, but part of the process going forward.
Prim Bradley, thank you for the opportunity to interview you today. I look forward for another opportunity to dialogue with you in the near future.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I appreciate the conversation. Thank you. All right.
Well, that's our package for this evening. I am your host, Sheldon Joseph, bidding you a pleasant night rest, and do tune in next week for another edition of the Social Development Outlook. Do have a wonderful evening.